2, 1. I believe we are live. Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I am Patrick.
And I'm Paul.
And he's Paul. And we're going to do a very, very interesting episode on something that either you've been part of an argument or you're going to be part of an argument after this. It's about when you're watching movie series or franchises, especially ones that have jumped around a little bit in their own timeline. Do you watch it in the order that they released the movies? Or do you watch it in chronological order? So the timeline for the actual universe. If you don't know what we're talking about, you'll see examples pretty damn soon.
Yeah, or is it kind of does the chronological order matter more to you at a certain point? Are you just like, well, we haven't watched it in chronological order yet? Like, is it a way of going back and watching your favorite things in a kind of new fashion way, you know?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, how about we as people are joining the stream, I think what we should do is maybe throw out the first example. And I think we're choosing something that was just easier to show in a graphic because it's easier to explain. Some of these are massive, and some of them are smaller. So we're starting with something that's smaller and has less films in its series. And before I click on this, I'm just going to preface it by saying we would have created fancy animations, but we both have jobs and we're quite busy. So you're just getting flat graphics like this one for the Alien franchise. So you can see this is the real world release time, which is the first Alien film came out in 1979. The last, which was Alien Covenant, came out in 2017. And we have left out all the Predator and Alien versus Predator films because we wanted one graphic that was simple. Just one.
Yeah, and also, like, if you were really to do it in that kind of sense, the Predator Alien kind of franchise is different. Like, it doesn't really follow any kind of, like, I don't know, order of things, you know?
Now, I'm assuming, Paul, on your stream now, you can see this graphic because we've got a 30-second delay, so I see things a little bit before Paul.
I got it up on the other thing.
So can I just say, before we get further into this argument, I want this on some sort of digital record. Alien is amazing. Aliens is equally amazing. Alien 3 gets a hard rap, and I still think it's great. And I would rather not talk about anything after that. As far as these 6 go, I'm happy enough to get off at stop number 3 and be like, well, okay. And I know, Paul, you have a bigger heart on you. You're a bit softer on some of the others because we've talked about this before.
Yeah, like Aliens is fantastic. There's no problem there. You know, absolute gold. Alien 3, I definitely agree with you. It has a hard rap. Like, people forget that it was done by Channel 4 as well. So, like, it's a lower budget kind of one, but still good within the franchise. It kind of brings it back to the scariness.
Yeah.
Alien Resurrection, it's just fun, and it was written like by Josh Whedon. So, like, can you really?
I know. Can you hate something that Joss Whedon, my one-time boyfriend wrote? Like, it's terrible, but yeah, Joss. There's all sorts of excuses given for that movie. I think it had a lot of potential, but I will never forgive the big baby-faced alien ending when it's like, oh, please don't suck me out the window. It's comedy gold.
I get you.
But so back to, and I'm going to throw it back up on screen. So back to the matter at hand. If you were to watch these, and I will throw up the second, which is the chronological order, which almost flips it right round because you start with Prometheus, which for my money is the worst of the bunch. And then you're into Covenant, and then you're into the good ones.
We have which is someone inside it said, is it bad that I've only seen Resurrection?
It's awful that you've only seen Resurrection.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible.
Well,
sorry for
and it's not awful. Like, that is not pointed at you at all as a person, whoever that is. I do not hold it against you. I feel sorry for you and a small bit of pain. They're amazing films. See the others.
I don't. I say that it's bad, but you are incredibly lucky.
Well, that's
because you've got Alien and Aliens in front of you.
That is so true.
Which are great.
Yeah. And actually watch them in that order too. Do watch those in order.
Lisa B also says good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Lisa, a long-time commenter. First time live stream, I think. So Hey, Lisa. Good to see you.
So yeah, into the kind of like, yeah, you're saying Prometheus is the first one because it's set back in the time when space travel seems to be a little bit lighter on kind of interaction, which is, yeah, I definitely agree there. People have a problem with Prometheus, the ship, which I always find interesting, that it's futuristically looking compared to like all the industrial like loggers and stuff like that. The truck that we see in Alien,
Yeah.
forget about it.
I wouldn't even get into the ship argument when it comes to Prometheus without mentioning the running away from the horseshoe shaped rolling towards you ship instead of running to the left or right. It's I know we're supposed to suspend our disbelief, but those characters were supposed to be the two smartest in the whole show. And yeah, it wasn't fair to them or us to make us watch it. But again, back
No.
to the topic at hand, Paul. If you had to choose, and we had to recommend to people, all of our 12 listeners out there, if we had to tell those people, if you've never seen any of the Alien films and you're going to watch all six, do it in chronological order or do it in release order, which would you choose?
Oh, for a first time watcher, I definitely do it in release order.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. And if I was watching it back right now, I would still do it in release order because I think it's one of the story that they try and weave the whole way through works better in release order. I don't think the Genesis moment in kind of Prometheus or even Alien Covenant, I don't think it helps set up the other films in a necessary way, if you know what I mean.
Like, it's, I guess it's compared to whose story do you really want to follow? Do you want to follow Ripley's story, or do you want to follow the evolution of the xenomorphs like species? I guess
And I
in a
think
kind of
you've
way.
just outed me because that nails me completely on this. Am I an Alien movie fan? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm an Ellen Ripley fan because she was a massive hero of mine when I was a kid. So yeah, that's my phone's gone nuts.
Because
That's probably outed me there.
Ripley's a strong female character. She's great.
She's
Like, she's
awesome.
just a strong character.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but what you're really asking me there, because we'll probably move on quickly.
Yeah.
What you're really asking there is, do I want to have the ending being real shit and the beginning real good, or do I want the middle to be really good to kind of space out?
I see what you're saying. Well,
Because you start
importantly,
on a low in chronological order and then you're going up, and then
yeah.
people will argue you slowly dip down then.
And in all honesty, Paul, there's also a chance that you could get very busy by the time you've watched, let's say, three and a half of the movies, or even four of the movies, and then you just might have to go out and do something, and that's why you couldn't finish your watch through. Yeah, so I would do release order and probably only make it through four movies.
That is unfair.
It is unfair, but and we should bring other people in. Have we got any comments? Has anybody out there said what order they would choose for Aliens?
No, Lisa B says that she's only seen Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, and Covenant. Like, Alien 3 is worth a watch.
Yeah, I'd say
Like,
so.
I would say it brings it back to kind of like the horror survival esque kind of thing that Alien had. It's not as good, it's not as well done, but it's still kind of bringing it back to the original kind of horror story. Alien Resurrection. If you want to see Josh Whelan's kind of take, I guess, on the alien worlds, then yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah, but no, three's definitely worth it if you enjoyed either of the first two movies because it does capture, it still captures a lot of the Ripley story. So Sigourney Weaver still is Ripley at that point, as opposed to the more comedy stylings of the fourth film. Would you?
here's an
Sorry,
interesting
go for
thing.
it. Yeah.
Here's, yeah, we got people saying that they choose release order as well. But here's a question for you, just before we move on.
Hmm.
Um, the Neil Blomkamp like Aliens 3 movie that was meant to be created but never got the green light. If that was made, would you have completely disregarded all the other ones
No, no.
and continue?
I
Like, as
know
in,
that it
like,
still
that's a
kills you
separate
that it wasn't
timeline now.
made. I see, and
It does.
I'm fine with separate timelines. You know what? If somebody can make something good out of any property, that's a great thing, even if it's off in its own corner of the universe. Which is why I never really had a problem with the Alien versus Predator or the Predators kind of mentioning the alien bits here and there, having Easter eggs. I'm all for that.
Hmm.
But I did notice one other comment in there, and that's from Brew saying that he usually doesn't get past. He's not a sequel man. I do know this. There's a bit of an anger towards sequels there, which makes sense. But for this conversation, we're concentrating on things that have more than one sequel by nature. Uh, so it's interesting to see people will have seen some but not all of a franchise. And as you'll see, that's going to become more and more of a problem as we go along, which is where some of these time jumps can make things really confusing.
Yeah, and I just remembered that there was one that we did not actually think of.
Oh, hit me with it.
Terminator.
Yeah. Um,
Because
being
it's very confusing.
being completely honest, I was putting the graphics together for this in a hurry, and Terminator did come up, and I'd done all the graphics, and in my head I was like, no, I haven't got it in me right now. But yeah,
I
Terminator
gotcha.
is. You know what I would say for Terminator? Because it is all about time travel, watch it in release order. That way you will be comfortable with the level of effects in the movie. Because that's the other thing, we should talk about the concept of release order versus chronological. If you watch things out of release order, you can end up seeing a movie that was made in 1984 following a movie that was made in 1994. And the
Mm,
special effects differences might feel jarring. So yeah, release
well,
order
see,
has some
this
advantages.
where I do think that's where the conversation came from for the Promethean or
Mm,
Prometheus, because it was made in 2012, and the original one was made in 1976, 1979.
79.
So yeah,
A great year. I'm going to throw out the next one though because and I'll get you to choose cars or spaceships.
cars.
Cars.
We choose cars.
Well
Thanks.
then that makes it Fast and Furious time, everybody. This
I,
is all over the internet with rage, particularly in car culture for some reason. Since most of car culture spends its days out in public denying that they watch Fast and Furious movies, and then at night jump on Twitter and shout at each other about it. Um, as a member of the car community, I admit to watching all of these movies, but also feeling the right amount of shame about watching all of these movies.
that makes sense. Uh,
Well,
sorry about that.
you were somewhere else there. Um,
No, I was reading the comics.
okay, well, actually, hit us. Anybody got any good comments before we?
Um, Belis Beliskadnar, I can't pronounce your name, says that they may be subjected to the release order very soon. I do, I do agree to you there. And Lisa B has said that she's only literally watched Terminator and Terminator 2 in March.
Oh wow!
So
And I
it's a
hope you enjoyed them
pretty,
both because they are the best of the franchise by a long shot. They're also two just
yes.
genuinely brilliant
Stop,
films. Hmm?
stop there. Stop
Yes,
there.
exactly. Stop there. Exactly.
Watch, what's Terminator, not the latest one?
The one before the latest one was
No,
Salvation. No,
Not Genesis. No,
yeah, it
God,
was
no.
Salvation. Then possibly.
No. What's the newest one?
Oh,
What's it called
Dark
again?
Fate. Dark Fate.
Dark
Sorry.
Fate.
Yeah.
What's Dark Fate?
Here's a tip. Here's a tip. If Linda Hamilton's in it, watch it. Again,
Yeah.
it's kind of like your Alien movies. If Sigourney Weaver's in them, watch them. Again, it's weird how many of my heroes as a child were actually female action stars. I'd never really thought about it before now. It's a good thing, I guess. I am going to go
Uh,
back to the Fast and the Furious graphic though, because this is the
mhm.
release order. And to talk through this very, very briefly, we're not going to get into the ridiculous naming. We will have to we'll have to address it insofar as there is the first movie was called The Fast and the Furious. The second was Too Fast,
Ah,
Too Furious. Then
this
Fast
is
and
gonna hurt
Furious
my brain.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift was they didn't know where to go and what to do. But the fourth one is my favorite name because they just called it Fast and Furious, which was the
Hmm.
marketing department going, we're not making money out of our Tokyo Drift stuff the way we wanted to. I want to go back to the first film. You can't use the title, exact same title. Okay, can we remove the and words? Say, yeah, you can. Yeah, just.
Well, what's because they've got the Suicide Squad, which is coming out next.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, video coming up where we rant about film naming. But just to get back to that, so you got all the Fast and the Furiouses happening as they're released. You can see here now the odd chicken out would be, as I swap to the actual chronological order, is Tokyo Drift. The third film actually happens in real world time as the sixth film. And part of that reason is because they didn't plan it that way, but some of the popular characters in the third film, they wanted to work out a way to write them back in. And they wanted to have them in the movies and use them again. So they had to do some creative work after they realized the Fast and the Furious franchise was going to continue.
Like I have to the chronological order. I have to say is a piece of writing genius, which is giving that franchise a lot
Yeah,
in the sense that they made the first three films, and then they were like, "Oh, we want to. Oh, people want to continue with these. Okay, cool. Oh, we really want to bring that character back, but we need them to come back in a revenge kind of story, or we need a reason for Jason Statham to be part of the main plot." So,
yeah. The way I've always kind of described it to people who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to all this, it's like an old Dynasty or Dallas or like a soap opera style writing where you have your characters, and if you write one out, you might want to bring them back or have an evil twin, or they're actually it turns out to be someone's cousin. Everybody's weirdly related in some way or another, but it's also that mixed with a bit of Terminator. Funny enough, they mess with they write their own timeline so fantastically just to keep things going the way they want. Like it's impressive effort. I don't think I fully appreciated it till just now. So
I
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
yeah, like I love how because it's also a weird franchise nonetheless. Just as you said, just the writing kind of goes off the wall. And I would say because I just recently watched Hobbs and Shaw, and it is insane. Like compared to all the rest of them, like the Face of the Furious, it's kind of like submarine. We're getting a little bit crazy here.
Yeah,
Like I think it was seven was where things go like
yeah.
off kilter in the kind of like God's eye crap. It is all about family. That is correct, Darren.
Well, I
Um,
can also see somebody saying they've only seen the first one. Also, Five Fast, Five Furious. Worse than that, I will put the graphic back up on screen. They really did. We will touch on the names now. They call it Fast Five. The
mm,
Fate of the Furious was called the Fate of the Furious because of the eight. Furious Seven. The Fast and Furious Nine, which isn't out yet, but I've included their pre-release poster. I think when they said they're going to make 10 films. I don't know what the fun, funky name thing they're going to do for the 10th one is, but I'm assuming it's going to be Fast X. They will have to book it and use a Roman numeral.
yeah,
It's just begging to be done.
it will. Like I think the only franchise that has a weirder like has a no because Death Wish no never mind no forget it
Well,
because Death Wish just goes from Death Wish 1 to Death Wish 10 I think it
I,
is.
I don't even know where they stopped. But for all you people out there who've only seen the first one, yeah, like all these films are as bad or as good as you think. Like they are exactly what you think. But if you're going to watch a Fast and the Furious movie, you want kind of four, five, or six. You want that kind of middle territory because it's before the cocaine high of like Hobbs and Shaw, which let's face it, Paul is right. If you haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw, and particularly now that you can't get to Disneyland or maybe you can't get good acid, I don't know, like Hobbs and Shaw is definitely one of those. They just added everything. They thought, okay, we're doing an action film. Let's do all of the action and just all of it all the time for no real good reason for the most part. Um, so yeah, step back a few movies, and there's some good movie making in there. But
Mm,
it's definitely nothing to do with cars anymore, and it's all to do with family.
it is yeah so are
Choose
we
choosing a release order or a watch order there, or a
ooh,
chronological. It's one of the few
um
ones. I'll go first because it's one of the few ones, folks. I say go for the chronology because Fast and the
ooh
Furious Tokyo Drift is so cheesy and weird in its own way that you may as well see it where it actually fits in their timeline. Because it won't add or take anything away from the rest of the films, but at least it'll give it some context, and it'll show you how clever their writing acrobatics were.
that's a Darren just said it would be for tennis. which I like.
for tennis. I kind of like that.
I may pronounce it wrong, but I would say, I
No,
would say release order.
it's the IO
I'm
for
saying
Furious.
release.
It is. They are going to stick the 10 in the middle. I do like that. I'll
Mm,
be mocking up a poster at some stage. You sorry, you would say which?
I'm going release order
Ooh, our first split decision of the night.
because it's going in a weird. Yeah, I'd say because the first two movies are just about fast cars and criminals. Like Tokyo
And family.
Drift. Yeah, sorry. The first. Sorry, let me get it. The first three is about family and fast cars and criminals. Like Fast and the Furious, it has that whole like Letty has lost her memory shit. Then it starts going off the wall. Like it's like they wanted to make a Bond movie.
I'm telling you, it was Dallas. There were one Bobby Ewing coming out of a shower later. It was just it is the Young and the Restless. It's Days of Our Lives, whatever your soap reference is. What's up next, Paul? I think we
We're
did
on,
cars. We got to do spaceships, right?
of course, yeah. So, by the way, in chat
Oh
while
yes,
which is
yeah.
while Patrick gets the thing, chat released. Some of you haven't seen it, or haven't seen the Fast and Furious franchise. Is it the cars angle that just doesn't interest you? Is it the family angle that doesn't? Is it
I
just?
love that people will be put off the Fast and the Furious because they're not into movies about family. um,
Sometimes I don't want to watch family films
that's true. Yeah, actually, that
because you
is.
can see how creepy they get.
Well, yeah, but it is a good question. What, like, obviously, there's 100 million reasons not to watch those films when you've seen the trailer, but you can say that about a lot of crazy, silly films. If you take them for what they are, they can be kind of fun.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
true.
I'd be interested from the outset. That's a really good question. So let us know in the chat. This
Yeah,
one's gonna
is it?
probably split people more though. Sorry, Paul, you go.
Yeah, no, just curious. Is it the cars thing? Is it just you've seen some of the trailers or something like that? It's the furious part that annoys me. I don't know. They get pretty angry.
Oh yeah. Well, Vin Diesel never actually becomes furious though because he's so stoic in his anger. It's more of a
Mm.
pre-Groot grunt. Um,
Yeah. Still, he has a voice like a V8.
well, you know what? I appreciate you throwing in actual engine car references there. I'm gonna take that one. What I will say though is, just in case I'm stepping over Paul, in case you all think I'm being a little bit rude, I'm getting a small amount of delay. So Paul, if I step over you, apologies again. We can move on to the spaceship side, which is where everybody on this list will know, or everybody watching will know this was going to show up on the list. And that is, as it pops up on screen, Star Wars, which is actually quite easy to do a graphic for because there was three films, then there was another three films, and then there was another three films. There are 9 films, but they came out in the order of 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Um, and I, for one, think that's the way it should be, because 4, 5, 6 are the best films.
Okay, so you're already showing your hand by
I, I
going
couldn't hold it. I
release
didn't want
release.
to, but yeah, I kind of jumped the gun there. All right, you go for it.
So I'm gonna say because everybody's. I think a lot of people are going to say to do the original three and then not watch the prequels and then God, maybe watch the first of the new ones. I'm gonna say it depends. If it's the first time you're ever watching Star Wars, just do the original three. Um, if you've watched this 100 times, there's a Red Letter Media. Um, there's a Red Letter Media kind of one that which is cuts the prequels. It cuts the prequels into which are three. Sorry, it cuts the prequels into one film,
Oh,
which is so removes essentially the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy, and puts it into one film.
oh, that's an efficient
Um,
way to watch stuff because it
yeah,
wasn't great.
and it also makes it a lot more clear. Which is
Well,
which
I
is
can I can I can kind of kick in with you there a little bit because, and I'm going to throw them back up on screen. If you take it, most people have seen at least one Star Wars film because there's, no matter how old or young you are at this stage, a Star Wars came along in your generation. It just did. Some were maybe at the start or the end of your generation, but they did. Anybody who says I've never seen any Star Wars is lying, because they can say that they've never seen a whole film in one sitting, but you've seen at least a scene. They're that much part of pop culture, or at least all culture, even at this stage. The ones you're likely to have seen parts of really are the original trilogy. So that's episode 4, 5, and 6. They are the best. The alternate order is watching them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, from a narrative point of view, I understand why people say that's the way to watch it. Back to your point earlier on of technology changes and style of filmmaking changing things, I think it can be quite jarring to go from the older CGI of, let's say, Phantom Menace, which was episode 1. Then by the time you get to episode 4, Star Wars or A New Hope, where everything was practical effects and miniatures, etc. So I think you're actually better off watching them as they were released, because the story's big and epic, and you can jump in and out of this in its own timeline. It worked when they released them in cinemas. I think it works if you're going to watch them back.
The Lisa B brings up an interesting point that it's 4, 5, and then 1 and 2, which means that the big reveal in the 5th one doesn't get ruined for you.
That is a really good point.
So it's 4, really 5, 1, 2, 3 is flashbacks, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now,
I wish I'd made a graphic for that. It's a good point.
It's in a story kind of sense, in the fact that you don't want the big reveal to happen. I get it, but because that's kind of, it then gives because in the chronological order, it gives the whole kind of the audience a little bit more knowledge than the characters, which is sometimes fun, sometimes not.
I think, and just I took a moment to lean off and read my little view of the comments here. There's something else, and Brew pointed out that he watched the original 3 and then the Phantom Menace broke him. I remember going to see the Phantom Menace with a bunch of people, my full nerd heart on display, and it kind of broke me too. The Phantom Menace, a lot of people who grew up with it as maybe their Star Wars or the Star Wars for their generation have a lot more understanding of it than all of us that were holding on to the old a little too hard. But even doing watchbacks of them all, I think because because particularly the Phantom Menace from a story point of view isn't as artfully made as, let's say, Star Wars or particularly Empire Strikes Back, I think if you're going to introduce somebody to this franchise, always tell them to start with Star Wars. It is the one that does the best job in grounding. Now, I think Lisa's watch order is maybe the best I've ever heard. So where were you? I should have gone to you a few days ago when these graphics were getting thrown together, because that's what would be on screen as our opinion, and we wouldn't credit you at all. But yeah, no, I think I would always recommend release order with now the adaptions that we know are better.
As I said previously, I would have done, if you're completely new to the franchise, the original 3 is fantastic. Start there. You might as well. I like the idea of the flashback thing, but I guess just as a storytelling kind of thing, it's the original. It's slightly, see, this is interesting because it slightly changes. I'd have to think about this.
I can tell you want to muse something. That's why I've just thrown us back up on screen, because you were doing your "if I had a stick, I'd be whittling right now" thoughtful face. You're like,
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting because if your whole sole idea is to protect the big reveal in what would be the 5th film or the 2nd film in your kind of order, then yeah, that makes sense. If you're trying to introduce all the characters and stuff like that, and the kind of dynasty storyline of the family of the Jedi or the Jedi and the Sith kind of stuff, the chronological order is quite good. And that's hard for me to say because
but I do have a
prequels
counter argument to that though. Metachlorians, and I don't want to get too nerdy for anybody who hasn't seen all this stuff, but essentially some of the magic of the Jedi and the way they were introduced, particularly the first Jedi you see, well, not technically because I guess Luke is going to become one, but the first actual Jedi you see is an old man who has a different name, Old Ben Kenobi. There is no mention of genetic right. It's Force is treated like a religion at that point. And Phantom Menace broke me when they were like, also, we can measure this in your blood. It's like, oh no, please, please, please don't explain any of my childhood away. And remember, I was a lot older. So I went to the cinema from work to see it. So I had a lot of years of living with the original trilogy being part of who I was. Whereas I think if you'd only seen them a few years before and then you got to go and see Phantom Menace, it probably wouldn't have been as hard a hit.
Like I get your points, and the kind of midichlorians kind of thing does kind of like, I guess, break the idea, but I think Phantom Menace is actually the only one that ever mentions that, because the amount of backlash that they got from that.
Yeah,
but when I
it was a
like
mistake.
ignoring that, like I think they were trying to quantify a way of being able to test young ones for the Jedi Order kind of thing. But I would
Yeah,
just say you're all space wizards anyway. You should just have some kind of weird like Harry Potter had, the sorting had to put you into the right school that you'd be,
exactly.
you can make up some bullshit other than a scientific one. Um,
Like up until that point,
ignoring that,
it was just put a blindfold on and see if you can do stuff with without being able to see. That was the real kind of look. Luke might be all right at this. We're going to put a blast shield on him. He's going to do the thing in the back of the Falcon. Yeah, he's got some force jazz to him.
yeah, but you can also like if Darren's saying that if you do the chronological order, that it's the rise and fall and redemption of Vader, which is true in the sense of getting the first three is the rise of Anakin to and then falling to Vader, and then you get the horribleness of Vader for a while and then his redemption arc. The next three is just an interesting kind of like it's just an
Mm,
interesting kind of weird kind of stuff. As I said, I still think in the original. So as I said, this is the way that I'm going to finish it.
cool.
I would watch it. I would watch it in the release order if you're a first time viewer.
Hmm.
If you're a long time fan of Star Wars, you've already gotten your order
Yeah,
in
that's very true.
probably.
That is very true.
Like you've already got your favorites and stuff like that. I would actually like. I would actually try the. I would actually try the that order there, the flashback order kind of thing. And then if you haven't tried the Red Letter Media one, which is cuts the first three films into one.
Well, one thing I will say to give Rowan, and that it is an interesting comment about the rise and fall of Darth Vader. I kind of prefer the reason one of the reasons I prefer the both the Emperor and Darth Vader being introduced as shadowy is because they're supposed to be scary, and I think knowing somebody's origin, you can know it after they've already been established. It's really powerful and really terrifying. Knowing that deep down Darth Vader doesn't like sand because it gets everywhere, and the Emperor was essentially a dodgy politician with some, with some deep dark past. That
Just to
was
cut
fine
you in,
after I
sorry,
was scared of them, if you know what I mean.
Darren actually says that he meant for the
Oh,
order for is the flashback order. So
very
just to
good.
correct it there.
Yeah,
And Brew also says 40 years ago today was Empire Strikes Back was released.
and Brew, you have unlocked the secret code. You know exactly why we're doing this video on this day. We actually set up our Thursday schedule way back, knowing that we were going to cross over at this point and do something that involves Star Wars. Not at all true.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all true. But yeah, so hey, Empire Day. I like it. Let's just do a little fun bonus round for everybody out there. Favorite Star Wars movie? It's Empire Strikes Back for me. But I understand people who argue for any of the others except for it's very hard to find somebody who'll stand over the Clone Wars as the best. Phantom Menace even is a tough push for me. What's yours, Paul?
Which one's my favorite or least favorite?
Favorite?
That's hard.
It's Empire Strikes Back Day. The answer should
Like
make sense.
everybody loves Empire Strikes Back, and I think Empire Strikes Back is. I think the reason I like Empire Strikes Back is simply because I haven't seen that one the most.
Oh, okay.
It's actually the one that I've seen the most.
Ah,
Sorry, it's the
the
one that I
least.
haven't seen. I've seen the
Yeah.
least. Um, but ooh, like Return of the Jedi.
It gets a tough deal. People are very unfair to Return of the Jedi, and that's just because at the time people were like, "Oh, Ewoks, damn you, you're trying to sell toys."
See,
And then
yeah, no, I
Endor
get
was a
that.
fun scene.
Also, the only I've have talked about this. The Ewoks are the only actual credible like military force in the entire universe. Um, which goes, which could yeah. So like I think Rise of the Jedi is a really really good one. Um, because like simply because the end of the battle, the reveal and stuff, and the Rise of the Jedi or Return of the
Return of the
Jedi is
Jedi,
the one
right?
with
It's
the
the
Ewoks.
Rise of
Yeah,
Skywalker. Return of the Jedi.
yeah. Return of the Jedi has the Ewoks
Yeah.
brew. Um,
Oh, somebody's asking. Sorry.
which
Yeah.
is
I will say this much because we're now heading into overtime for our session. If anybody out there has a better watch order than what Lisa offered,
just the machete order.
the which?
It's called the machete order.
Oh, all right. Well, I probably should have known that, but I got to say, if anybody thinks they can beat it, please comments down below if you can. This video will be up forever, and I think if anybody can give a good enough reason that they have a better order than that, I'd like to hear it. Also, on your way down to set that comment, you could hit a little bell, hit a little like and a subscribe. In fact, everybody right now, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to hit a like because that actually helps Google know that we're even doing these things.
Hmm.
Begging over. Last one, Paul. Last one. I'm going to throw up the graphic.
Are we doing?
Oh,
You're not gonna let me argue the second one.
which? Oh, sorry. Yes, no. There's
No, I
last
don't think.
two. Last two.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we should because I definitely want to argue that point now.
Okay. Well, then I definitely want to get this one in though, because
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
huge. Everybody's heard of a little. What's it called? I think they're called Marvel. Something about superheroes. Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's it. They've made a few films in the last 10 years.
yeah, yeah. Just a few,
Just a
I
couple.
guess.
Well, on screen right now is the graphic with the release order on the left and the chronological order on the right. As you can see from how closely packed the font is, it's tough to even get them all on one screen.
Yeah, it is a hell of a job. Like,
Yeah, and this is one of those things. What's best to watch it in? If you've seen any of the movies, and most of the world has seen at least one of these, some people haven't. I get that. If I was going to pick one to start you off on, and I actually would start you off on Iron Man. It's a bloody good movie. But everybody's picked their own watch order now, and very few people are like, oh, well, when I'm doing a full 24 or 25 film rewatch, 24 film rewatch, this is the order I'll do. Because there's a new Marvel film coming out, or at least there was until recently, a new Marvel film coming out every year. More than one a year most years. So I think it really is, if you're going to watch something, a little group, will you put them in order? Because for me, I never see the point in watching Captain America First Avenger first, just because it's the oldest in the timeline. But if I'm watching the Captain America films, obviously you watch his origin story followed by Winter Soldier, followed by, you know, Civil War.
like if you're going to do it by character, you can start chronologically.
The ones that are highlighted in green there, that's in the chronological order. They're the changes, and I'd like to draw all of your attention down to how close the changes are around the Age of Ultron time, with Ant-Man, etc. Like, it's not a big shift, but there's a bit of a shift, and then there's actually two films in the same year that swap over. Is it Doctor Strange? I can't remember. No, it's Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And that is, by the very nature of the story, spoiler alert, something happens at the end of Infinity War that actually happens at the end of the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp also. It's a little thing called the El Schnapp. So yeah, that's an interesting one because that swaps out of release order and time order on top of itself. because it's all part of a joint story.
Yeah, because which is funny because I've watched it in the release order. I watched it obviously in the release order. I've watched it in the chronological order, and I've watched it in the super chronological order, which is the insane part of my Marvel fandom, I guess.
The super chronological order.
Yeah,
Pray tell, what makes this super?
it's where they cut out the end parts and put them into the positions.
Gotcha. Oh yeah.
Like they actually start cutting the movies like like in full chronological kind of order stuff. So like Captain America is the first one, but the after credits part, or the sorry, not the after credit parts, the end part where he wakes up is removed and placed. I think just before. It's just before Avengers, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's an interesting kind of one because it also means that Ant-Man and the Wasp is set just after Civil War, I think.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is. I've got to pull this up. Sorry, I was digging into the comments while I had a moment there.
No, don't worry. Like, yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp was during Civil War,
It's back
but
on
the
screen.
end,
So yeah,
but the end.
no, Ant-Man and the Wasp was happening at the same time
No, no,
as
no.
Infinity War. Sorry.
This is the super
Oh,
chronological.
wow.
So as in the first part, the actual Ant-Man and the Wasp like film happens after Civil War because he's under house arrest, and then the end part with the snap part happens like just before, like it just happens during Infinity War. Like it
Yeah,
cuts over to it cuts so when Thanos snaps, it cuts over to um Hawkeye and the ending of uh Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's real weird. I'll try to find
I'm
this
I'm gonna
and
say
post it
because
up
I
on our
like I
social medias.
knew about this kind of the whole chopped it all part because so many of these films jump. Like you can't even put them in chronological order safely because one part of them, as you say, is before another. I had no idea somebody called it super chronological, and after kind of listening to you talk about the complexities of it, I think super chronological is a fair way to put it because it's a lot of effort. Um,
Yeah, like it's interesting because if you ever watch that first, like, you would never know which film you're actually going to be watching anymore.
yeah. Now, if you had to pick, so it's decision time. If you had to pick release order or chronological order for somebody who's never seen any of these, which would you go with?
Ooh. Um,
And that's to all you
now
people out there in the comments too, by the way.
do I make my like do I do I say my my cheeky thing,
Oh, what's your
or
cheeky thing?
do I, which is, yeah, get Captain America first Avenger out of the way as quickly as possible.
Oh, really? Because you're gonna wait all the way to Thor 2, which we know is the worst movie. Okay.
Recently just watched this, and I could definitely have a bigger argument now with
Oh,
it.
brilliant! I would
Um,
love to have that argument because it's the only time I can honestly say I know you're going to be wrong. It is the worst film in the franchise.
um, Release order. I never said that it's the best.
No,
I just say that it's more interesting than Captain America First Avenger.
you said that
Um,
on the internet into a recording device. My God,
yeah,
man, this will follow you forever. As a friend, I should just pull the plug in this stream. Somebody delete the internet now.
like yeah, like I guess chronological order is quite interesting because if you ignore Endgame,
Hmm.
it's a quite interesting kind of story of like the history of that world kind of thing. If you were to watch the original release thing, it's more about the Iron Man story.
At least for
I would
at least for the first kind of half of it all, yeah. Before they really start.
no,
Um,
I I say so. A large percentage of that, right down to Endgame, is a large amount of the Iron Man story kind of thing. You can focus a lot on the Iron Man story. It's
yeah.
really good, but it brings in a lot of other characters and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I'm not, but it depends because I'm an Iron Man fan. So
We've got Tony and Team Iron Man and Team Cap here. This is our own civil war. I should have done a different background for this. But one thing I will say, the reason, and I'll choose release order, and the reason for me is quite simple. one of the best things the Marvel Cinematic Universe did was make post-credit scenes so interesting and powerful. And I think as much as you can watch everything chronologically or super chronologically, it's not just about seeing the story unfold. It's about how they presented it. And as those movies came out, it was fun having the post-credit scene be a nod forward or a nod back. Be it Thanos going, I'll have to do this myself, way before he ever, really showed up in a movie. So yeah, I think I always vote release order for those, because the artistry and cleverness again that went into making things like the post-credit scenes and the post-credit scenes work, you get that thrill, you get that little buzz.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you. Like, I guess it's one of those moments where I'm not as like new to the franchise. Definitely release order kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're a Marvel fan, give the chronological order a go. If you're like me and you've watched those films in, out, and every way about, the super chronological cut is quite interesting kind of thing, just because it brings in those after credits. And I did see that comment, after credits, and which good thing. So
I would like to say, look, there's a comment that's behind you and there's a comment that's behind me. I would just like to say, look what we've done. We've caused arguments out there. And we've also found out somebody else who's wrong, that Thor 2 is better than Captain America First Avenger. And swiftly moving on so that I can't be corrected on that.
It's more interesting than Captain America.
Oh, if you have to be specific about interesting rather than better, look, okay, you're on the wrong side of this argument.
Captain America First Avenger is a generic bad guy versus good guy piece of crap that's incredibly slow for a lot of that film. And there's no character development at all by Captain America.
Also, completely disagree.
There's no character development.
We will have this argument.
He's a good guy. He's a good person at the start. He's a good guy at the end.
And that's not the only thing you can develop about a character. We know this.
Love interest is not character development.
And no, love interest is not character development. There are other parts of character. Hey, look. This is not the video, but I think everybody can see that if we ever get round to making that video, we will have to bring our cases before a judge. So we may need an impartial person to hear arguments and sustain objections.
Can we get Ramesh Ranganathan? Because he has that what is that, that channel or the BBC or the Channel 4 judge thing.
Well, we're going to need somebody to arbitrate, because the reason we haven't done that video is it'll just end up me and Paul going, no, you're wrong, you loony.
It's just an argument.
It's an argument waiting to happen. So on to the last thing then, and thank you everybody for your comments. It's awesome. I have to say, there's one comment. Where did it go? I think I got chronological for the MCU. Bruce, out of my depth. Yeah, don't worry, dude. We're moving on. The other thing though, somebody said that they were watching through. I can't remember who it was. I think it's moved up on my screen. Doing a watch.
Darren's working. Yeah, Darren's working. He's doing a watch through in chronological order with a friend, and they just watched Black Panther this afternoon, actually.
Oh, very good. Well, enjoy the rest of the journey. So chronologically, you've still got quite a bit to go, which is nice. And particularly if you're including the final Spider-Man, or the most recent one, Far From Home. Yeah, it's Far From Home, not Homecoming. Sorry. So what is the last one where we have, I wouldn't say disagreement, but we have questions for all of you out there, because we have feelings on this. I'm going to throw it up. It's X-Men, and what's come up on screen, Paul, is the release order first for everybody. So we start off with the Patty Stewarts.
Yeah, so the release order, have no problem with it. Obviously, like the original three, I definitely think are the original first X-Men is quite an interesting take on the whole story. It's got a place in my heart because it was the first Marvel film I probably got to watch properly.
Okay.
Because it was when it was released well before the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it was Blade and it were really the ones that broke ground for all of this.
Yeah, because you had the original Captain America, from
the 80-something one that was terrible.
Yeah,
and well, let's put it this way: I think without X-Men, the first X-Men film, we wouldn't be talking about MCUs or any of that crack now. It really did. It took a lot of punches for everybody. It is the giant that everybody's standing on their shoulders now. X2, I
Because
think,
Fantastic
showed.
Four is also
Oh, sorry, go for it.
because Fantastic Four also was like started to kick that whole like a hornet's nest of like you can do this better, lads.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It was a bit of a backward step in some ways. That's true. But I think okay, so you got X Men X2 was affectionately known X Men 2. Then you get a little bit of a wobble at X Men 3, but I still maintain that it gets too hard a kick in 2. But then you have the first of the standalones, that X Men Origins Wolverine, where people
mhm.
realize, you know what, now we can start doing origin stories. So that means we're going to start messing around in the timeline. And then the recast, the X Men First Class, which
Yeah,
I got to be honest with you, it was a brave move at the time, and I think it really worked. And then it just strangely petered out to the point that by the second movie, they realized it was a good idea to have both casts show up. So you had Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen at the start of it, and then you had Michael Fassbender and a Scottish gentleman whose name is at the tip of my tongue.
oh my god, you just made it. You're just contagious.
Yeah, I know.
Michael Fassbender and
Scottish dude, Last King of Scotland, actually. Yeah, his name's going to jump out of my mouth in a minute. Anyway, commented 30 seconds from now, there's going to be 12 people just typing it in, going, bloody hell, it's what's his name? Anyway, this doesn't make good internet. If
no.
that's the release order, I think that might be as close to the real order if you just move Logan. But here is what I found as my backup for the chronological order, which obviously starts with X Men First Class. We know that
McAvoy.
that's McAvoy, James McAvoy. Thank you. Did somebody get in there? Yeah. Oh, somebody did. Thank you very much. Um, James McAvoy. Thank you. I figured we'd get a few. First Class is the start in the timeline. That's back in the 60s, I want to say.
Yeah,
And then Days of Future Past is just difficult because it's in the future, then it's in the past. God, it's even in the title. It's like they wanted to give it away, but it's primarily happening in the 70s slash 80s possibly, but 70s I think.
70s.
Yeah. So having Wolverine Origins then show up in that timeline, I think, is really just so that they can have Wolverine before his introduction in X Men, because that spans an awful long time. Because technically, Wolverine starts way back in the what is it, 17 something or 18 something.
Yeah, it starts. Yeah, it starts up in his original, like
So what's
colonial days.
yeah? What's your feeling on this X Men list that's on screen then? Because I want to wrap this up before we hit the hour, because nobody ever watches our hour videos once they're up. Um,
So, my problem is that Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix are in the or in are up front into the future kind of thing, which I find weird. Because like I would like I guess
it's an alternate
is
timeline thing, though. Unfortunately, that's the challenge here, because you've got
yeah. See, this
alternate
is
Jean Greys, etc., etc.
see this is yeah. I guess it is kind of weird because it means that the Last Stand involves the death of Jean Grey,
Yeah,
and that like I would actually see this is a correctional thing. I would have actually yeah. So I would have X-Men First Class.
I got to put Paul on screen for this because he's doing thought face.
I'm gonna do X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men Last Stand, Wolverine, X-Men Days of Future Past, and then Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and Logan.
And I have no objection to any of that, because I find anything with kind of alternate timelines is it's too difficult to really say there's a right or wrong chronological order, and particularly with the nature of some of these movies. Also, that is why anybody who's wondering why Star Trek didn't make it into this. Oh, has somebody's
Yeah, it's because Darren saying isn't Apocalypse in the 80s, and it's just like yeah, because technically it's an alternative timeline kind of thing.
yeah.
that's why I was putting future past in between
Yeah.
Wolverine and Apocalypse,
So I
because it
think,
means that.
yeah, we can safely go back to release order as a more safe way to view these
Well, no,
films.
no,
Because,
because no, because Logan, I would have it still at the end because it is
well, yeah,
Logan. Like, as in my changes is just that you take future past out of the chronological order and put it in between Wolverine and X Men Apocalypse.
and you'd actually bump
Yes.
Apocalypse back the way. Yeah, I'd agree
No,
with
no,
that.
no. As in it, yeah, it goes towards the end.
Yeah. Again, this is why we left with this one to last. We almost didn't do it. Uh, being completely honest, I think if you've never seen any of the X Men movies, is there a better or a worse way? It's because there's two gears on this. Well, actually, technically, there's really three. There's the original cast, and then there's the new cast. So you've got your Patrick Stewarts and all the rest. I would probably suggest to somebody to watch them in release order if they're just getting into it, because you get a very nice, like the first X-Men film is a really nice introduction to the concept. It's one of the better kind of, as the X-Men are, that nice allegory for social unrest and racism. I think Days of Future Past and First Class are great, but they're maybe not as they're not going to win you on side without some reference, frame of reference for the characters. So I think the first X-Men film is probably where I'd start. After that, what you watch, I'd say it's much of a muchness. It's kind of up to you as to how you like to play them out.
Mm, yeah, I'd agree. I'm trying to figure this out now. It's like red string and a wall
Yeah,
is needed for this for me because I don't know if it should be that I reset the timeline in the sense like because their idea was to have I would have I wonder if they wanted to switch X-Men First Class behind X-Men Days of Future Past so that essentially Days of Future Past resets the whole timeline.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that the chronological order graphic is just wrong as far as we're both concerned, and I'll take the hit on that because I didn't
No, no, no,
revet
no.
it.
It's
But
not that at all. No, it's incredibly difficult. It's an incredibly difficult. Like this is why I wanted to do this one. It is it's time travel restarting a timeline.
yeah,
So it's like because like where we had the argument with Star Trek,
yeah,
my argument was that with the new start to the Star Trek timeline, you could have that technically at the end of the original films and generational films because it has old Spock, and
yes.
then that whole timeline gets reset,
Yeah, so if
and
you
then you
use
go
Spock
on
as
with
your
the
calendar,
new.
yeah, and my thing was the reason that anything that does a split like that is just a pain in the neck for chronology is you're supposed to go by a calendar, and if the same day exists in both things, then you're just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Are we doing scientific research or a YouTube channel? Actually, we're doing a YouTube channel, so it doesn't really matter. It's cool.
No,
Um,
it's
I will say though, because I saw how seriously you were staring at that X-Men graphic while talking. The next time you see us, behind Paul will be like pictures from the grassy knoll with red string going all the way to like a picture of Logan, and he'll be wearing the same T-shirt with a longer beard and possibly screaming something.
because that's the interesting thing. Just to say, the interesting thing about the grassy knoll thing that you bring up is because that Magneto was the man on the grassy knoll, and he was trying to save JFK.
Yeah,
It's all. I'm
it's
just
all
turning into a
connected.
conspiracy. Oh my
Red
god!
lines. Well, before this does turn into a conspiracy theory channel and we end up getting loads of views because of it, because apparently that's a good way to get views, folks. If you want to tell your friends that we're actually doing conspiracy theory now, I'm sure our subscriber count will go
Conspiracy
up.
theories with Marvel films,
Yeah,
Sony films,
niche. Um,
Marvel films. I don't understand.
I do want to say though, and I do want to turn this to everybody else, and I'll stick us both a little bit bigger on screen. Thank you very much for all the comments. It's I'm just checking any last stuff there.
It's
Yeah,
mostly
thank.
just Bruce saying. It's Bruce saying he's out of his depth with again. Sorry, Brew. And then the apocalypse in the 80s, and it's
Yeah.
in a weird time zone. I will try to fix this.
Yeah, and worryingly, I think Paul will try and fix this, and it's not something that can be fixed. So, hence, we might start a GoFundMe for fixing Paul after he finally breaks. One thing I will say though is it wouldn't be the same without all of your comments. Brew, I'm sorry we ended up out of your depth a couple of times there. I know this isn't your end of the universe, and it's not necessarily all mine, but I did look at all the Jaws films when I was trying to work out could we do a chronology when it came to the shark itself, and unfortunately, no, the family override that. So I couldn't find another one that didn't have to do anything with this. So what I want to leave you on, and I'm going to throw it up on screen, is everybody right now, you now know what 9 films you want to see. Well, 8 of them that are released. You've got to get yourself into Fast and Furious, because for me, they are the winner of messing with chronology while releasing movies and pulling it off. If the films aren't art, the way they've managed to pull off their timeline messing is, it really, really is.
Them rewriting a mistake like into the storyline so it doesn't seem like it is just they paid a really good writer to bring that in.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever about the
I
MCU, like the Fast and the Furious really did ride the speed bump, pun intended.
I also have forgotten that Deadpool would also be involved in this.
I didn't forget Deadpool, but as you could see, I couldn't be arsed making things smaller, and there wasn't enough. And I didn't
No,
even
no, no,
worry
no.
about getting the order right. And I had to get some sleep at some stage. So,
Oh, completely understand.
I would say that I've had a lot of fun. This has been a great stream. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody who did. If you're watching this after the fact, which means you're watching this in the future, so chronologically, you're okay. We'd love to hear from you and your thoughts. Love to hear from anybody who's got ideas for stuff you'd like us to babble on about and maybe pull apart and argue about. But especially what we'd like is beyond the like, subscribes, and subs and comments. We would like you to enjoy what we do. So that does mean let us know what you enjoy, and we'll do more of it.
I just want to I just want to say I've been working with Patrick on this channel for a long time, and we've had the argument about Captain America versus Thor 2. And I definitely thought you were going to put a stab in there, and then just cut the stream.
No, no. See, I'm all good. I'm very, very comfortable with how good I feel Captain America is. But see, that's not what the argument would be about. It would be an assassination, because I'm very, very comfortable about how bad Thor 2 is. So much so that the people who made it aren't even happy anymore. So
Once again,
I'm doing this as a joke. I do not.
This will start it off again. You know how I can get with this.
I would like to say I have been Patrick, and I respect my co-host's views,
I've been Paul.
and he does. No,
I do.
I'm going to call it one last comment. There was couldn't be arsed is a good reason. Couldn't be arsed is the only reason most of the time for anything that happens in my life or on this channel for us, I imagine.
Well, yeah.
You're reading. So sorry, I thought you were about to say something from the comments there.
No, I was just reading into stuff. Don't worry. I'm still trying to figure out this timeline.
All right, well then I got to get us out of here. Everybody, thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, but just look after yourselves, each other, wash your hands, and whatever you do, release order or chronological, enjoy the movies you watch.
That's the important part. See you later.
Where's the end stream button?